Inequalities are a special type of mathematical expression, which can be kind of thought of as possibilities because they can have multiple correct answers. So we're talking about a range of numbers, not just one correct answer, as in an equation. The vocabulary and math symbols that are associated with inequalities will take some time and practice to learn. So students already know greater than and less than, but they may not know greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, and they have not yet learned inequalities as a concept. It's easier to think of them in real world terms. So let's look at an example. So Micah's lemonade stand needs to sell at least 10 cups of lemonade each day in order to break even. So what I mean when I say it's a possibility is that there are a lot of different possibilities for the number of cups that Micah's lemonade stand can sell. So it could sell 10 or more, all right? So Micah can sell any number of cups as long as it is 10 or greater. So that's what makes this different than an equation where we just have an equal sign, equals 10. This is at least 10, but could be any number greater than 10. Okay, so here is how we would represent that. So this is x is greater than or equal to 10, which means that whatever number of cups, it needs to be greater than or equal to 10. Representing an inequality on a number line is another skill that will take time, but being able to represent it on a number line really shows that the students understand exactly what an inequality means. So here I have a solid dot on 10 to show that 10 is included, and then the shading goes up through 16, which is the largest number represented on this number line. However, the arrow indicates that this goes on to infinity. So it could be 10, could be any number greater than 10. So we've got that represented there. Okay, now if instead of it has to be at least 10, it has to be greater than 10, all right, and in this context, that would be a whole number, so it would be at least 11, we'll say. Then we represent it in a slightly different way where we have this open circle, and then we have this number of possibilities. Okay, so this real world situation kind of helps students to understand why you would use an inequality. However, I would point out just as a technicality that, we've got all of these values in between the numbers shaded in, but technically speaking, this would only be whole number values that would make this make sense in that context. So just as a technicality, but to show the students how an inequality relates to a real world situation, that's an important way to help them understand that concept. Okay, so in this situation, it has to be greater than 10 and it cannot be 10, which is why we've got that open circle there to indicate that that is omitted. This chart is very helpful to students when they are learning these terms. So pairing the words with the symbol with the number line filled in, a sample number line, really helps to solidify that for them. So moving on to looking at another type of question. So when students have worked closely with thinking about real world contexts, including, the lemonade stand or money or temperature or other values that represent a real world situation, and then they also have practice with some number lines so they're understanding what values are represented by inequalities, then they can move on to working on these sorts of questions. So this is select all of the integers that would make this inequality true, which means that there are multiple correct answers here. We have x is greater than or equal to 10, and our choices are 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so 10, 11, and 12 would make this true because they are all 10 or greater. 9 does not make this true because it is less than 10. So students need to be able to look at an inequality like this and select potential values that make it true, which means they need to have that deep understanding of what the symbols mean and what inequalities mean. Okay, moving on to some tips. The first tip, in a real world situation, this might be a little easier. As we move into kind of a more abstract situation with just the symbols, then the students are really going to need to draw on their deep understanding of what the symbols mean to know, are they looking for values greater than or less than a particular target number. Plotting a closed circle means that the value is included on a number line. An open circle means it is not included. I went over that a few slides back. Now, in terms of matching the words to the symbols, some students, this is very intuitive. Other students have a little bit of a hard time making that connection. So something that they've learned in earlier grades is, the alligator goes after the bigger meal. So you can think of the greater than or less than sign as like an alligator's mouth opening toward the larger number. So in this situation here, we have 4 is less than 5, so the alligator's mouth is opening toward the 5 to indicate that it's going to go after the larger meal. Another way that you can think about it, if you're trying to say it out loud, and again, some students struggle with this symbol, the less than symbol looks like L, like lesson, and then the greater than symbol does not look like L. So that might help students to remember that if they're saying it out loud, if that's something that they're kind of struggling with.